So last class we talked about the discovery of cells. Now we're going to talk about looking inside cells and kind of what makes cells cells and their unique characteristics for plant versus animal cells. So just like all my PowerPoints, there are embedded videos. That being said, you do need to open up the link for the actual PowerPoint and then click play on that video. If you need to, please just press pause on this so that you can watch that video before we move on. Now, there is a difference between animal cells and plant cells. Our animal cells are going to have a cell membrane. They're going to have endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes, ribosomes, a nucleus, nucleolus, vacuole, mitochondria, and Golgi body. Keep in mind, we are going to go through all the functions of these. Just wait, don't worry. Now, our plant cells, on the other hand, plant cells, they're going to have that cell membrane, but they're also going to have a cell wall. They're going to have the nucleus, they're going to have lysosomes, they're going to have ribosomes. However, they're also going to have chloroplasts, and chloroplasts are what undergoes photosynthesis. They're also the reason plants are green. They're going to have a vacuole, that's going to have to do with storing water. Don't worry, we'll talk about it more later. An endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, and Golgi body. Okay, now we are going to go over some of those functions of those cells now. To start us off, we have our cell membrane. You can kind of think of the cell membrane as the shipping and receiving dock. So it quite literally has pores inside the membrane that control what materials come in and out of the cell. Again, it's shipping and receiving. So it takes in the stuff and sends stuff out, okay? Versus inside our actual nucleus. Remember, nucleus is that brain-like control center. We're going to have the nucleolus. That's going to be the inner nuclear structure. So it's kind of like the deep inner part. And it's going to be producing ribosomes. You also are going to have a nuclear membrane. That's a membrane. You can just think of it as like that outside barrier. So it's separating our nucleus from our cytoplasm. That way we don't just have things going loose, because inside of there, we're going to have chromatin, which is strands of your DNA, and that provides the instructions for, one, replicating your DNA, and then two, for protein synthesis. Remember, if errors occur in our DNA, it's called a mutation usually. And with mutations, you can have cool things that happen, but there can also be really bad things that can happen. For example, cancer is a form of a mutation. So we don't want our DNA just kind of loosely going everywhere. We want it in a clear little place so that when it's replicated correctly. This right here is a picture of a nucleus. That darker part right there, you can see, that's the nucleus. We have our cell membrane and then our cytoplasm. But we do need to go over all those important organelles. All right, quick video for you guys again. Just watch this one really fast before we can move on. Remember, go to the actual PowerPoint to watch the video. Next, we have our cell organelles. Okay, so cell organelles are going to be the structures inside the cell that have various functions. Okay, that being said, you kind of think of them as like organs. Remember, the organs in our body had different functions, and so these organelles are going to also have different functions. So they are going to, one, produce energy. They're also going to build and transport needed materials. So anything your body needs in order to survive, they're going to move it around and transport it. And then lastly, they're going to store and recycle waste. Okay, so we're going to store the stuff we need and throw out the trash. Now, to start us off, we're going to start us off with something easy in our organelles. We have the mitochondria. Now, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. If you're going to remember anything, just remember that one. It'll come back and haunt you, I promise you. Okay, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. What that means is the mitochondria, is the thing that produces energy for the cell. So the thing that gives you energy to keep going is going to be your mitochondria. Your mitochondria also have their own DNA, and they reproduce this inside the cell. Okay, so in order to make sure we still keep producing energy, they quite literally have like a little special bit of DNA. Okay, they have active cells are going to have more mitochondria. What I mean by that is, remember, like, my skin cells aren't that active. Like, they're going to open and close for sweat. Versus, like, my muscle cells, when Miss Hudson's going hard at the gym, right? That needs more energy. And so, as a result, those cells that are more active are going to have more mitochondria. Your heart, it keeps pumping. It doesn't just, like, casually go, like, oh, I'm going to take a break. I'm tired, right? It keeps going. So, it's going to have more mitochondria to keep it active. This right here is a picture of what those mitochondria look like. And it actually has, like, a little matrix on the inside. Don't worry, if you get into like an AP biology, you'll have to know more details on that, but you should be good with this so far. Next, we have our endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum is like a maze of passages. It carries proteins and other substances that are needed for the body, or for the cell, I should say, to different parts of the cell. Because remember, as much as we take in all these things, we want to send them to the right place. So our endoplasmic reticulum is like the highway with all those trucks transporting the stuff. Okay? It also carries excess heat away from the cells. If our cells overheat, then they die. Now, please keep in mind when you have a fever, remember, sometimes it is a good thing because sometimes the cells that are contaminated, unfortunately, need to die. And so our body sometimes will heat it up to kill off the bad cell. But we don't want all of our cells overheating because then we die. So this is actually helping to cool you down. Next, this picture right here is a picture of that endoplasmic reticulum. You should be able to see kind of like those maze-like passageways. That's that is. Okay, so ribosomes are known as the protein factories. And so with that being said, ribosomes produce proteins. They also have like our little parts that are attached to those endoplasmic reticulums. Some of them, on the other hand, are going to float freely in the cytoplasm. So you're going to see like a lot of times they're going to be attached to those endoplasmic reticulums. Other times they're going to be loose. So if you ever see like little circly things along our endoplasmic reticulum, those are ribosomes. Now remember, not all of our endoplasmic reticulums are going to have ribosomes though. Next, we have our Golgi bodies. Now Golgi bodies are known as the mailroom. That being said, the Golgi bodies are going to pack those proteins and get them ready for transport. So they're really like packaging all, you can like think of it as like Amazon, where they're doing all the packaging. This part right here, they're not sending them out. They're getting them ready to be sent out. This right here is that Golgi body apparatus. Okay, so it's known as like Golgi body or Golgi body apparatus. Next, this structure is unique to plant cells. So chloroplasts are also known as kind of like your sun catchers. So those green structures, remember they are green, that's why our plants are green, they are going to be found only in plant cells. And they're filled with chlorophyll. That chlorophyll absorbs sunlight so that plants are able to undergo photosynthesis, which produces energy for our cells. Okay, remember, me, I don't undergo photosynthesis, but I do eat plants that undergo photosynthesis. If I'm not eating plants that are undergoing photosynthesis, then I'm eating animals that are eating plants that undergo photosynthesis. So everything for us consuming energy comes ultimately from plants. This right here is a picture of those chloroplasts. Remember all those little green structures? Chloroplasts, filled with that chlorophyll undergoing photosynthesis. This right here is vacuoles. Vacuoles are the cell's storage area. And so that being said, they're going to be filled with water, okay? And they're also going to store some of our food and waste. Vacuoles are going to be a bit larger in plant cells, and when they're full of water, they can cause the plant to look a little bit more plump and full. Versus when they get low, then they kind of get a little wilty. It's why if you're like Miss Hudson, who has a mild plant obsession, some of our plants on certain days they're looking a little bit like sad. But then as soon as I give them water, they kind of perk up. It's because those vacuoles fill up and then they slowly empty over time. This right here, this picture here is showing that vacuole. That big old empty space is quite literally where we have that like water filled inside of our plant cells. So the lysosome is known as the cell's stomach. It's going to break down food particles. Just like your stomach when you take in food, it's going to break things down. So our lysosomes contain chemical enzymes. You should remember enzymes from our digestive system. And those enzymes can do things like breaking down proteins and lipids, as well as carbohydrates. And they're going to be surrounded by a membrane. That membrane gives it that structure. This right here is a picture of those lysosomes. All right. Now, I do want you guys to keep in mind, bacterial cells are a little bit different. Okay, remember, our cells have all these really cool organelles that have all these cool functions, whereas things like bacteria cells are not going to be very complicated. In fact, most bacterial cells are going to be single-celled organisms. They're going to be a lot simpler than plant or animal cells. Those cells contain no nucleus. A cell that doesn't contain a nucleus is known as a prokaryote. Don't worry, pretty soon we're going to have a lesson on prokaryotes versus eukaryotes. They also are going to have their genetic material floating loosely in the cytoplasm. So unlike us where we have like our nucleuses containing all that important information, it's just going to be loose because it doesn't have that much. The only organelle that they contain are actually going to be ribosomes, wildly enough. So those proteins are the organelles that they contain. So versus our bodies are going to have specialized cells, okay, right? We have heart and we have our muscles and we have our skin and our neurons. We have lots of different structures that have very important functions. That being said, we are going to be multicellular organisms sorry about that, guys. So we're going to have specialized cells that perform specific functions, right? We have skin that regulates and protects our body and regulates our temperature and water. We have muscle cells that move our body. We have neurons that are going to transmit information to and from the brain. We have all kinds of specialized cells, so we're going to be multicellular, meaning we're going to be more complex. Alrighty, so this just right here is a quick picture of the anatomy of an animal cell. Don't worry, we're going to get some more practice with this. If you have any questions, please let me know. Some quick little videos if you would like to watch them and fun little links. If you want more, there are more on the classroom site. I'll see you guys.